In the previous video, internationally renowned health teacher Barbara O'Neill shared 7 alkaline-forming foods that we should primarily consume to keep cancer away from our bodies. In this video, we will learn from Barbara about 8 acid-forming foods we should try to avoid in order to provide a healthy environment for our bodies to naturally protect against cancer and other diseases. Let's quickly remember why we should always maintain a healthy pH balance for our bodies. The pH of the human body is important because, at different pH levels, diseases can either grow or struggle to survive. Blood pH ranges between 7.35 and 7.4, but at a cellular pH of 5.5, diseases thrive, especially yeasts, fungi, and cancer. Cancer loves acidity. Oxygen and sugar are 2 things that cancer loves. When people come to us seeking help to overcome cancer, we recommend a highly alkalizing diet, methods to oxygenate the body, and significantly reducing the intake of glucose and sugars. Since we have already explored 7 alkaline foods we should consume, we will now focus on 8 acid-forming foods to avoid. But what does acid-forming foods mean? Let's examine this. Acid-forming foods are those high in minerals that produce acid, such as phosphorus, sulfur, and chlorine. So, which foods are high in phosphorus, sulfur, and chlorine? First on the list is meat. This helps explain why Dr. Colin Campbell discovered he could switch cancer cells on and off by varying the amount of meat and dairy products given to rats. Therefore, red meat and other similar foods should be limited. Processed meats are the most common acidic foods in the Western diet. Red meat is high in protein and phosphorus, thus increasing the amount of acid in the diet. Next is wheat, especially hybridized wheat, which due to hybridization, contains many more acid-forming minerals. Since wheat is such an important ingredient in most of our diets, let's delve deeper into the actual problem with it. The original wheat, created by nature, is called einkorn, and had a very fragile protein or gluten structure. It is estimated that, a few thousand years ago, einkorn spontaneously hybridized with a wild grass, resulting in the emmer variety. This new variety had a less fragile gluten structure, but it was still relatively delicate. In the 1950s, the emmer variety underwent intensive crossbreeding, resulting in the hybridized wheat we know today. This hybridization created an incredibly complex gluten or protein structure. Today, we are looking at how the hybridization process changed the gluten or protein structure, making it difficult to digest unless one has an extremely resilient digestive system. This explains why so many people are gluten intolerant today. By the 1990s, almost every pasta, pizza, and other products contained this hybridized wheat. For biscuits, cakes, cookies, donuts, cereals, bread, all made from hybridized wheat. Farmers love this wheat, and I don't blame them because they get 6 times more grain per acre. This wheat was quickly adopted to help with the world hunger crisis, but safety studies were never conducted. This explains the gluten intolerance we see today. The 2 most common symptoms of gluten intolerance are brain fog and bloating. The third acid-forming food on the list is caffeine. Foods and drinks containing caffeine have an acidic effect. An imbalanced diet high in acidic foods, such as animal protein, caffeine, and processed foods, puts pressure on the body's regulatory systems to maintain pH neutrality. The extra buffering required can deplete the body of alkaline minerals like sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium, making the person prone to chronic and degenerative diseases. Therefore, it is important to consume in moderation. Additionally, caffeine usually comes with sugar, which exacerbates the problem. Remember Coca-Cola, which combines caffeine and sugar with a pH of 2.6. It's toxic. So, it's no surprise that refined sugar is on our list. Refined sugar is highly acid-forming. While sugar itself is pH neutral at 7, it significantly contributes to acid formation in the body. 4. Sugar is considered an acid-forming food because of how it affects the body's pH balance during metabolism. When sugar is consumed, it is primarily metabolized by the liver, producing metabolic byproducts such as lactic acid and acetic acid, which increase the body's acid load. Additionally, sugar metabolism depletes alkaline minerals like calcium, magnesium, and potassium, which are essential for buffering and neutralizing acids. High sugar intake also stimulates insulin release, which can lead to the excretion of these minerals through urine, further contributing to acidity. Moreover, sugar alters the gut microbiome by promoting the growth of acid-producing bacteria, adding to the acid burden. Finally, sugar-induced inflammation produces acidic byproducts, exacerbating the overall acidic environment in the body. A surprising food on the list is aged cheese. What's the blue in blue vein cheese? It's mold. The only cheeses that don't fall into this category, and likely have a pH of 7, are fresh cheeses like cottage and ricotta. However, this doesn't mean they are entirely healthy, as they usually come from cows that have not been properly fed or have been exposed to chemicals. Dairy products in general are considered to be acid-forming foods. This classification is based on the concept of potential renal acid load, PRAL. Potential renal acid load, PRAL, measures the acid or alkaline effect of food on the body after digestion and metabolism. Foods that are high in protein and phosphorus, such as dairy products, tend to be acid-forming. When these foods are metabolized, they produce acidic compounds that must be neutralized or excreted by the body, leading to a higher acid load on the kidneys. Here are a few examples of how common dairy products are classified in terms of their acid-forming potential. Milk, slightly acid-forming. Cheese, moderately to strongly acid-forming depending on the type. Yogurt, Slightly acid-forming. It's important to note that the acid-forming or alkaline-forming properties of food do not necessarily indicate their health benefits or drawbacks. A balanced diet that includes both acid-forming and alkaline-forming foods is typically recommended for overall health. Next is alcohol. Although it is not a food, alcohol creates an acidic environment in the body. Tobacco, while also not a food, creates an acidic environment as well. Alcohol breaks down in the body to acetaldehyde, a neurotoxin which is harmful to the brain. Should you eliminate all acid-forming foods? The good news is that you don't have to avoid them altogether. To maintain a pH environment of 6.5, it is recommended to consume 20% acid-forming foods and 80% to 70% alkaline-forming foods. And it's no surprise that the 20% of acid-forming foods should come from groups such as greens, legumes, and nuts. Within these groups, many items are acid-forming foods, such as all grains except those on the alkaline side, all legumes except lima beans, lentils, and soy, and all nuts except almonds and Brazil nuts, which have an acidic effect.